month and stuff. Just wanted to show you this as well.
About me? I didn't even fight last night. Just Dana.
Do you have any updates about the eye of Tom Aspinall, and is there a rematch in the works?
Oh, Jesus. Don't let me talk about Tom Aspinall's eye. Apparently he's going in for a second surgery or just had it, and by surgery I mean injections. I have no idea. Get a quote from him. God forbid I say something about it. Go ahead.
Jeez.
How close did you think you were to
Here's your quote.
Catching strays, aren't I? Catching strays in my own living room on a Sunday morning. Right, that's this one done. Next week, we've got the
Tom Aspinall wants out of the UFC. And before you roll your eyes thinking this is just another fighter chasing money, let me stop you right there. This isn't about paydays or prima donna behavior. This is about a man whose career hangs by a thread, whose vision is literally on the line, and whose own promotion might be destroying his future. What I'm about to break down for you reveals the brutal reality of what happens when the sport's biggest machine collides with a fighter's most basic need to protect himself.
The reports are out. The UFC asked Tom Aspinall to vacate the title until he was ready to go. He said he'd be willing to vacate the title as long as they released him. Now, that opens the door so he can go ahead and box. This is a really weird situation. The heavyweight division is just a total shit show right now. And it's been a shit show since the John Jones coming in, not wanting to fight, the interim champion, which was Tom Aspinall at the time, and then fighting Stipe. No disrespect to Stipe, but it was just, John had something in mind, and the UFC didn't squash that. They allowed that fight to happen, and it just led into this thing where the heavyweight division's been on hold since the John Jones, what do we call it? Bottom line is, Jailton Almeida is gone. Okay, they just released him. Tom Aspinall, if he is gone, John Jones doesn't seem like he's coming back, especially not to the heavyweight division. We have a mess. We have a disaster on our hands. The heavyweight division and the 205-pound division, the light heavyweight division, both weight classes are the worst that they've ever been. And these used to be the pillars. This used to be what would carry the promotion. When the merger of Strikeforce and the UFC happened, the heavyweight that had ever been. And the light heavyweight division, honestly, UFC was built off of the light heavyweight division. This is wild to me, man. The 135, 145, 155, and 170 right now are of MMA and definitely carrying the UFC. More to come.
Right, and I'm not defending Tom because I'm a friend of his, and I don't really even talk to Tom very much. We're not even friends like that. I was always an admirer of Tom's work, and I believed in his potential. A lot of people are talking shit because I get Cyril.
Here's what everyone's missing about Aspinall's situation. This dude stepped up on short notice against Sergey Pavlovich, one of the most dangerous knockout artists in the heavyweight division, and absolutely demolished him to win the interim title. That's not the behavior of someone looking for an easy way out. That's a ing predator seizing his moment. But here's where the story takes a dark turn that nobody's talking about. The injuries he's dealing with aren't just bumps and bruises. We're talking about potential permanent damage to his vision, the kind of damage that doesn't just end fights. It ends careers and ruins lives long after the cameras stop rolling.
You're allowed to say, whoa, never mind the fight, I can't see. And then the crowd turned on him. And then this is where a lot of people are saying that he's milking it. Okay, after the fight, they showed footage at the hospital and getting looked at by the doctors, and everyone was like, oh, you're milking it. And then I'm going to go through some of the comments on Twitter in a minute. The same kind of thing there, right? And maybe he was, right? Maybe there was a little truth to that, because I understand it, by the way, because he wants to show the world, hold on a minute, I'm the victim here. I'm the guy that got poked in the eye. I'm not the person out there that's committing the fouls. I had two fingers.
You saw the crowd turn.
And get this, the UFC's medical clearance process has become this twisted game where fighters are pressured to return before they're truly ready. Aspinall's dealing with eye damage that could leave him with impaired vision for the rest of his life. Think about that for a second. This isn't a broken bone that heals in 6 weeks. This is his ability to see, to react, to protect himself in the most dangerous sport on the planet. Every day he waits for medical clearance, other heavyweights are positioning themselves for title shots. Every week that passes, his momentum dies a little more. Meanwhile, he's sitting there knowing that one more significant impact to his already damaged eye could end everything he's worked for.
Let's run it back. And I was dying to, because the fight was a close fight. And yeah, Tom's nose was busted up and Cyril Gane was looking really good. But as fans, is that not what we want? Do we not want to see exciting fights? Do we not want to see back and forth competitive matches?
But here's where it gets absolutely wild. The fans, the media, even some fellow fighters are calling him soft for not rushing back. They're treating his legitimate medical concerns like some kind of elaborate excuse to avoid competition. This is the same mentality that destroyed fighters in previous generations, the same toxic mindset that left legends like Chuck Liddell slurring their words and struggling to remember their own children's names. Aspinall is watching this circus unfold, seeing people question his heart and his commitment, while he's literally fighting to preserve his eyesight. The disrespect isn't just insulting, it's dangerous, because it creates pressure for fighters to return before they're medically cleared.
We want to see legendary matchups as fans. We want to see good matchmaking. We want to see two guys that are the best in the world going toe-to-toe and pushing each other to the limit. And that's what we saw, right? It was a competitive...
Now listen to this part, because this is where Aspinall's chess-level fight IQ comes into play. He's not just thinking about his next fight, he's thinking about his next 20 years. A true champion doesn't just survive in the octagon, he survives after the octagon. And Aspinall is smart enough to understand that no amount of championship gold is worth spending the rest of his life with permanently damaged vision. The man has seen what happens to fighters who ignore their body's warning signs. He's watched careers end not with glorious championship reigns, but with devastating injuries that could have been prevented if someone had just said no at the right time.
Is what a lot of the public fan base has had to say. Now granted, this is on Twitter, right? And we know Twitter is a bit of a cesspool of negativity and toxicity, right? I'm sure if we looked at the Instagram comments, it'd be a little more positive. But look at these guys. First of all, Grok, is this real? Come on, man. You really think the heavyweight champion of the world is out there? He's going to fake something like this? He's going to put some, like, I don't know, eye drops in his eyes and be playing a whole stunt? No, we all saw the eye pokes. We all saw the aftermath. We all saw the fallout. We all saw the appointments with the doctors. And now we're seeing 4 months later the fact that he's had surgery.
Hold up, did you catch what's really happening here? While Aspinall is being responsible about his health, the heavyweight division is moving without him. John Jones is playing games about who will fight next. Francis Ngannou left for boxing and PFL. Curtis Blades is building momentum. Cyril Gane is positioning himself for another title shot. Every day Aspinall sits out, someone else is making moves that could cost him his rightful place at the top. This isn't just about medical clearance anymore. This is about watching your career window close while you're doing everything right. That's the kind of situation that would drive any elite competitor absolutely insane.
He didn't even do. If anything, people should be more pissed at Cyril Gane. And then underneath that, Tommy's milking this shit, but hey, it is what it is. He wanted out of the UFC and got his chance. Now he'll sue for a few mil, and that will be that. And we can go on all day, we can go through it, but you get the general consensus, you know? I mean, fake, they said, right, I don't know. Listen, at the end of the day, these guys are talking out their arse. What do you mean he wanted out? This man has worked his way up. The man became the interim heavyweight champion of the world by stepping up on short notice and taking out Sergey Pavlovich.
But wait, it gets worse. The UFC's response to his situation has been radio silence. No public support, no timeline for his return, no acknowledgement of the severity of his injuries. They're treating their interim heavyweight champion like he's some expendable prospect instead of one of the most promising talents in the division. And you know what that tells Aspinall? It tells him that his health, his career, his future, none of that matters as much as the promotion's bottom line. When a fighter realizes the organization he's bleeding for doesn't actually care about his well-being, that's when the relationship starts to break down.
That's what he's done to the majority of his opponents. And yeah, you know, he had a couple of things that week with the DC and saying he was going to boxing and all that type of stuff. But at the end of the day, the fight was looking like a really, really good one. Now, I was excited for the rematch, and there's still been no talk of a rematch. Because, of course, there hasn't. How can you have a rematch when one half of the matchup is still going through medical clearance, still trying to get his vision back? And in fact, if you read out the actual statement from the doctor, this was an Instagram post, and this is what was written, but it was like written in third person. I think Tom shared it or something like that. It says, after his highly publicised eye poke in...
Here's the kicker that nobody's talking about. Aspinall's desire for release isn't about running from competition. It's about finding an organization that will actually protect his interests while he recovers. Look at what happened when Francis Ngannou left the UFC. He got better financial terms, more control over his career, and the ability to pursue opportunities that the UFC would never allow. Aspinall is watching that situation and thinking, why am I staying loyal to a promotion that treats me like I'm replaceable? Why am I accepting medical timelines that prioritize their schedule over my long-term health?
We've been working closely with him on his recovery. Following his operation on both eyes, we continue the journey to get Tom's vision back to fighting fitness, right? Now, let's talk about that. What is fighting fitness? Well, I know this very well. The benchmark for having fighting fitness is...
And here's something that'll blow your mind. The pressure Aspinall is facing to return before he's ready isn't just coming from the UFC. It's coming from fans who think they understand what it means to be a warrior. These armchair experts are questioning his heart because he won't risk permanent blindness for their entertainment. They're calling him weak for prioritizing his health over their bloodlust. This is the same toxic fan culture that cheered when fighters used to compete with concussions. The same mentality that treated brain damage like a badge of honor instead of a tragedy that could have been prevented.
2200 vision. All you gotta get is the top letter, the big old massive one, and then the two relatively big ones underneath that. If you can read those three letters, you have 2200 vision. I know this because I cheated the eye test many times to go on and have my legendary career, where I did end up in the Hall of Fame and with a few belts and stuff like that, right? So I know what I'm talking about. So to get Tom's vision back to fighting fitness means he's got to have 2200.
Now here's where Aspinall's strategic thinking really shows. He understands that his prime athletic years are limited, and every month he spends navigating UFC politics and medical bureaucracy is a month he can't get back. At 29, he's in the sweet spot for heavyweight fighters, old enough to have elite skills but young enough to have his best years ahead of him. But that window won't stay open forever. If he's going to maximize his earning potential and championship opportunities, he needs to be fighting, not sitting on the sidelines waiting for a promotion to decide his medical fate.
About it online would say to me that the operation has been a success, so now it just is a matter of time before Tom to rest up, to heal from the surgery, and then come back and rematch Cyril Gane. But how long will that be? Because the one thing that you can't do, and I've said this in multiple other videos, you cannot rush this. When you rush back too soon, things can go wrong. When you operate on something, you weaken it. Anytime you go in there and drill or cut and slice and mess about with it, you weaken it. So you have to allow it a lot of time to restore, to heal 100%.
But here's what's really driving his frustration. The UFC has created this system where fighters have almost no leverage over their own careers. They can't negotiate with other promotions, they can't pursue outside opportunities, and they certainly can't challenge medical decisions without risking their standing with the company. Aspinall is trapped in a contract that gives him championship-level responsibilities but prospect-level control over his own destiny. That's not a partnership, that's indentured servitude with extra steps. And for a fighter of his caliber, someone who's proven he belongs at the top of the division, that dynamic is completely unacceptable.
Ignore all the negative comments on Twitter and Instagram and all these dickheads online because they don't know what they're talking about at the end of the day. You'll be back at some point. I look forward to it. I look forward to the rematch with Cyril Gane, and then you'll get used to all this shit again. Everyone coming out the woodwork and talking crap. Anyway, what do you guys think about everything that I just said? What do you think about Tom's situation? Do you think they're going to bring in an interim champion? Is it going to be Cyril Gane versus Alex Pereira, something like that? I really don't know. But what do you think? As I say, always say, let me know in the comment section and subscribe.
Here's the brutal truth that casual fans don't understand. Vision problems for fighters aren't like other injuries. You can fight through a broken rib, you can manage torn ligaments, you can even compete with a damaged knee if you're desperate enough. But compromised vision, that's not just risking a loss, that's risking your life. In a division where guys like Francis Ngannou and Derek Lewis can end careers with one punch, having impaired depth perception or peripheral vision isn't just dangerous, it's potentially fatal. Aspinall knows this, his team knows this, but somehow the fans and media expect him to ignore basic self-preservation instincts.
To have when you're fighting the best people on the planet. So it's not that he was looking for a way out, it's that he got double poked in the eye. And now, as we say, here we are 4 months later, the man has had surgery. Not one, apparently he's had 2, right? And you can see the damage on the eyeballs, right? Anytime they mess with the eyes, I've had multiple eye surgeries, right? I lost my retina. You all know this story by now if you're new to the channel and you haven't seen this shit, right? Yeah, I lost an eyeball and I had a lot of surgery.
And get this, the financial implications of his situation are staggering. If Aspinall suffers permanent eye damage, his earning potential doesn't just decrease, it disappears entirely. No more fight purses, no more sponsorship deals, no more opportunities to build generational wealth for his family. He's looking at the possibility of trading his entire financial future for 1 or 2 more fights that he's not even medically cleared for. Meanwhile, the UFC continues to profit from his previous performances while offering him no guarantees about his long-term security. That's not a business relationship. That's exploitation disguised as opportunity. Stay with me, because what comes next explains everything about why elite fighters are starting to rebel against the UFC's control. Aspinall represents a new generation of fighters who understand their value and refuse to accept the traditional power dynamic where promotions hold all the cards. He's watched what happened to legends like Chuck Liddell and BJ Penn, fighters who stayed too long and paid devastating prices for their loyalty. He's also seen what Francis Ngannou accomplished by walking away from the UFC's lowball offers. The blueprint exists for fighters to take control of their careers, and Aspinall is smart enough to follow it. But there's something way bigger happening behind the scenes that most people aren't seeing. The heavyweight division is in complete chaos right now, and Aspinall's situation is just one symptom of a larger problem. Jon Jones is cherry-picking opponents and avoiding real contenders. The UFC is struggling to create compelling heavyweight storylines without Francis Ngannou. Casual fans are losing interest in a division that feels stagnant and political. Aspinall's desire for release isn't just about his personal situation. It's about escaping a division that's being mismanaged at the highest levels. Here's what nobody else is saying about this situation. If Aspinall gets his release and signs with another promotion, it could start a domino effect that fundamentally changes the heavyweight landscape. Other top contenders are watching how the UFC handles his situation, and they're taking notes. If the promotion is willing to let an interim champion walk away rather than address his legitimate concerns, what does that say about how they value any of their fighters? The message being sent is that nobody is irreplaceable, which might be true, but it's also incredibly short-sighted when you're dealing with elite talent in a thin division. So there you have it. Tom Aspinall's desire to leave the UFC isn't about fear or money or avoiding competition. It's about a fighter who understands his value, prioritizes his long-term health, and refuses to accept a system that treats him as expendable. This is what happens when an elite athlete with championship-level skills meets a promotion that's more concerned with control than with creating the best possible fights. And honestly, this could be the beginning of a larger shift where top fighters stop accepting the UFC's terms and start demanding the respect and compensation they deserve. So here's my question for you. Drop it in the comments. Do you think Aspinall is making the right choice by prioritizing his health and career control? Or should he just shut up and fight whoever the UFC puts in front of him? If this breakdown helped you understand what's really happening behind the scenes, smash that like button, subscribe for more MMA analysis that goes beyond the headlines, and hit that notification bell because the heavyweight division is about to get even more chaotic. I'll see you in the next one. But wait, there's another layer to this story that's going to absolutely blow your mind. While everyone's focused on Aspinall's medical issues and contract disputes, there's a much bigger game being played behind the scenes. The timing of his release request isn't random, it's strategic as hell. Think about it, we're heading into 2024 with the heavyweight division in complete disarray. Multiple promotions are flush with cash and looking for marquee signings, and Aspinall just proved he can demolish elite competition when healthy. This isn't just about escaping the UFC. This is about positioning himself to become the centerpiece of whatever organization is smart enough to treat him right. And here's where it gets really interesting. The PFL just signed Francis Ngannou to a deal that includes boxing opportunities, his own show, and equity in the company. One Championship is throwing around massive contracts and building their heavyweight roster. Even Bellator is making moves to stay competitive. Aspinall isn't just looking for a way out. He's looking at a marketplace where heavyweight champions are treated like the rare commodities they actually are. The UFC might think they hold all the cards, but the landscape has changed dramatically in the past 2 years. Now check this out, because this part is going to change how you see everything. Aspinall's team has been quietly building relationships with other promotions while he's been sidelined. They're not just hoping for a release, they're preparing for it. Smart managers don't wait for opportunities to appear, they create them. While the UFC has been treating Aspinall like he should be grateful for their attention, his representatives have been fielding offers that would make him one of the highest-paid heavyweights in the sport. The man isn't begging to leave. He's got a line of suitors waiting to make him rich. But here's what's really wild about this whole situation. The UFC's hardball tactics with Aspinall might actually backfire spectacularly. Think about what happened when they played games with Francis Ngannou's contract. They thought he needed them more than they needed him, right up until he walked away and became the face of another promotion. Now they're making the same mistake with Aspinall, assuming that their brand is bigger than his talent. But here's the reality check they're about to receive. Heavyweight champions who can actually fight are incredibly rare, and other promotions understand that even if the UFC doesn't. And get this, the medical situation that everyone thinks is holding Aspinall back might actually be working in his favor. While he's recovering, he's not taking damage, he's not accumulating wear and tear, and he's staying fresh while other heavyweights are beating each other up. When he does return, whether it's with the UFC or someone else, he's going to be healthy, motivated, and probably fighting with a massive chip on his shoulder. That's a dangerous combination for anyone who has to face him. Here's something that's going to shock you about how the fight business really works. The UFC's entire negotiating strategy relies on fighters believing they have no other options. They've spent years convincing athletes that leaving the promotion means career suicide, that other organizations are minor leagues, that the only path to legacy and financial success runs through their octagon. But that narrative is crumbling fast. Francis Ngannou is making more money and getting more respect outside the UFC. Jake Paul is building his own promotion and offering fighters equity deals. The monopoly is breaking down, and smart fighters like Aspinall are recognizing the shift. Now here's where Aspinall's situation becomes a case study for every other fighter watching. If he gets his release and thrives elsewhere, it proves that the UFC's control over elite talent isn't as absolute as they pretend. Other fighters are going to start asking harder questions about their contracts, their medical care, and their long-term security. The promotion might think they're making an example of one difficult fighter, but they could be creating a blueprint for others to follow. That's not just bad for business, that's potentially catastrophic for their ability to retain top talent. But wait, there's another angle to this story that nobody's discussing. Aspinall's vision problems aren't just affecting his fighting, they're affecting his training, his sparring, his entire approach to preparation. Every day he spends with compromised eyesight is a day he's not getting better, not maintaining his edge, not staying sharp. The UFC's delay in clearing him isn't just frustrating, it's actively degrading his skills. Meanwhile, other promotions are telling him they'll work with his medical team to create a timeline that prioritizes his health while keeping his career moving forward. Which option sounds better to you? Here's the part that's going to make you understand why this situation is so much bigger than one fighter's contract dispute. The heavyweight division has always been the UFC's marquee attraction because casual fans understand the simple math. Big guys hitting hard equals entertainment. But right now, that division is a mess. John Jones is aging and inactive. Stipe Miocic is past his prime. Francis Ngannou is gone. Tom Aspinall represents the future of the division. A young, skilled, exciting fighter who could anchor heavyweight title fights for the next 5 years. Letting him walk away isn't just losing one fighter, it's potentially losing the next generation of heavyweight stars. And check this out, because this is where the business side gets really interesting. Other promotions aren't just offering Aspinall money, they're offering him things the UFC never would. Equity stakes, revenue sharing, control over his image rights, the ability to pursue outside opportunities. The UFC's business model is built on owning every aspect of a fighter's career, but newer promotions are realizing that partnership models might be more effective for retaining elite talent. Aspinall isn't just looking for a better deal, he's looking for a fundamentally different relationship with his promotion. Now here's something that's going to blow your mind about the timing of all this. Aspinall's recovery period is actually giving him leverage he wouldn't have if he was healthy and active. Think about it, if he was fighting regularly, he'd be locked into the UFC's schedule, taking whatever fights they offered, following their timeline. But being sidelined has given him time to evaluate his options, explore alternatives, and negotiate from a position of strength rather than desperation. Sometimes the worst situations create the best opportunities. But here's what's really driving the UFC crazy about this whole situation. Aspinall isn't just asking for his release quietly, he's being public about his frustrations, his medical concerns, and his desire to leave. That kind of transparency is exactly what the promotion doesn't want because it encourages other fighters to speak up about their own issues. The UFC's power comes from information asymmetry, from fighters not knowing what others are earning or what alternatives exist. Aspinall's openness threatens that entire system. And get this, the fan reaction to Aspinall's situation is revealing something really important about how the sport is changing. Younger fans, especially those who follow multiple promotions, are supporting his decision to prioritize his health and career control. They understand that fighter safety should come first, that medical clearances shouldn't be rushed, and that athletes deserve to have options. It's the older, more traditional fans who are calling him soft or questioning his commitment. That generational divide tells you everything about where the sport is heading. Here's the kicker that nobody saw coming. While Aspinall has been dealing with his medical issues and contract frustrations, he's also been building his brand outside the octagon. Social media presence, podcast appearances, training content, sponsorship deals that don't require UFC approval. He's creating value that exists independently of whatever promotion he fights for. That's smart business, and it means he's not just a fighter looking for a new home. He's a complete brand package that any promotion would be lucky to have. So here's what I think is really going to happen, and this prediction might sound crazy, but hear me out. The UFC is going to try to keep Aspinall by offering him a new deal that addresses some of his concerns, but it's going to be too little, too late. He's already seen what's possible outside their system. He's already built relationships with other promotions, and he's already decided that his long-term interests are better served elsewhere. When fighters reach that mental point, when they stop believing in the partnership, no amount of money or promises can bring them back. The trust is broken, and in this business, trust is everything.